Hello everyone, it's Paul from Visiophare project. Today it's not really a tutorial, I'm going to share with you the different experimentations I did with LEDs and the different parts I have in a LED module. So let's go into it. In a LED module, every piece on this green mat is a LED module I made with different parts and different possibilities. So I'm gonna present them to you after. But first, which part do you have in a LED module? In a LED module, you have the LED COB at the top of it, which is a very tiny part we still need to buy new. So we can't really get it from second-hand, but many of the other parts we can get them from second-hand shop or recycling. For example, on this LED module, this part is a fan we get from old computers. This part is a heatsink from computer. It's used to cool down CPU or GPU. And the best ones are the ones with a little bit of copper, because copper is very good to conduct the heat and let it go out of the LED. And the other part is in aluminum, and it's used to have something which is very light and help the heat to go out as well. You always have to add a fan, because just by itself it's not enough to help everything cool down. So in this module we have a very flat heatsink, and it's useful because when it's very flat we can get more space available in the projector we build, and it's very better than heatsink which is like that, which is called the tower or sometimes dual tower heatsink. And this model of heatsink is way more high, so you just lose all that space in your overhead projector when you build it, because you have to respect the sense of the heatsink. For example, on the tower one, I have to paste my LED at the top of this square, and if I put it there, I then have to put this LED module at the vertical. So we try to get from garbage and second-hand stores, we try to get the more flat ones, because this way we gain a lot of space. So the different parts you have inside the LED module are the heatsink, the fan, the DC to DC booster to convert the electricity from the power supply to the right voltage amount which is necessary for the LED, and also to limit the current, because if you don't do that, the LED is gonna hit and hit because it's not able to stabilize itself. It needs to be limited by some current limitation parts. I also have this electronic part, which is used to transform the DC voltage to another DC voltage, and I use it to transform 24 volts to 12 volts to power my fans, which are most of the time in 12 volts. And because my LED is most of the time in 36 volts, it's useful to take a power supply which is at the closest voltage possible, because the more far the voltage is from the power supply to the LED, the more current transformation and voltage transformation you have to do. And the more you do it, the more electricity you lose. And when you lose electricity, you need stronger power supply to achieve the same transformation. So the best way would be to have a 36 volt power supply to power up 30 to 36 volt LEDs. And that way we would have less heat, less power consumption, and less transformation. In my case, in my existing stuff, I have a lot of 12 and 24 volts power supply. So instead of buying new ones, I will keep them and transform the voltage and the current. But I advise you to take the closest power supply possible, as is the voltage of your LEDs. I also have some element like that. It's like this one is broken, but this is a DC to DC converter. This one is a booster. You have other ones that are called, I think, buck converters, and it is the opposite of a booster. It's putting the current down. If you put in it 20 volts, for example, you can only transform it from 19 to 0 volts, but not above 20. And a DC to DC booster is the opposite. So if you have a 12 volt which is coming in, you can transform it from 13 volts to the maximum amount of the DC booster. For this one, I think it's 70 volts. When you use this kind of stuff, look and read at all the characteristics of it, so it fits your LED module you are building. And this is another part which is kind of a little dimmer or DC converter, I think. This is the part which came with this fan, and it is used to slow down or accelerate the speed of the fan. And sometimes it's useful because you don't need the fan to go at maximum speed, so you can, with a very tiny potentiometer of it, modify the voltage which is coming out of it, so the fan is slowing down. In my case, I don't really use that because I need the fan to be at any time the maximum speed ever, because all my LEDs I'm using are heating a lot, and I'm still looking for the perfect fan which don't make some noise and do not also need to go at a very, very fast speed. And here are a few different kinds of heatsink you can get from garbage or computer recycling stores. In my case, I get them for almost free at a recycling store, so it's interesting to do experimentation. I had like 50 of them and very different ones. So this one, the tower one, we already saw, which is very efficient because there is copper on it. This circular one, which was used in computers, it looked like some plain reactor. It's fun. And it has the fan which is integrated in it. This one, which is smaller, and there is only aluminum, so maybe it's not very, very efficient. We have to do a temperature measurement to compare each one of them and see which one is the best. And there is this tower one, which is kind of the same of this. And I just put two fans to be sure it has a lot of cool down. So there is a fan going this way and the other one going the same way, but on the other side. So there is like a big stream of heat air which is going out of it. So it's very, very efficient, but it's make a lot of wind and noise. But I can put very powerful LEDs on it and it's still cooling down. So this one is nice, and I try, now I have big heat sinks with fans, I try to make them smaller but without heat. So I try to optimize all that stuff to have the smallest LED module possible. So now let's get into the different LED modules I made. So at first I have this LED module, which is with a very special LED on it. It's a very big one, a very big LED COB. It's 200 watts, so it's very powerful. I think it's, do I have my little sticker on it? But I think, I remember it was 18,000 lumens, so it's very, very bright. And it has a dual tower heatsink, which is very efficient to cool down, and two fans. At this time I was very scary to hit anything, so I built this thing which is a big cooling down system, but it's a little bit oversized and it's not making any heat at all. So I think I can even cut it in half and it would still be enough to cool down that LED. The problem I had with this LED module, everything was running okay, everything was bright at all, but I had an optical problem in my overhead projector when I put it in it, because the overhead projector is designed to be used with halogen lamps who are in a size of something around 38 millimeters in circle. So if you put something which is a different size, for example, this LED module is 5 centimeters, so the overhead projector I have was made to get light from something emitting that size. That means everything on this LED COB which is out of this size, of this shape, is not used by the overhead projector. So I had this, but it was too big to be optimized. So I had to go down in the LED size by trying to keep the same power, because this one was very powerful, but I was looking on internet everywhere, on AliExpress, Amazon and other suppliers, to find LEDs that are powerful, but that are the size which is the closest size possible of the halogen lamp on existing overhead projector. So all the other LED COB I was using were close to this size. I will continue with this circular one, this circular model on this heatsink. This kind of heatsink, I don't know why, centrifugic, I think fan, sorry if it's the wrong word, but it's a fan which is not making any noise at all, but it's also doesn't cooling down so much. And this heatsink is only in aluminium and some other metal, I don't know. And it's not very cooling down, so it was making a little bit of smoke, it was very hot, and the circular shape of this LED was still making me having some soft edges and dark edges on my projection picture when I was using it. So I put this option away and I just went to square LEDs, which are way better if you want to have a perfectly squared projection picture with your overhead projector. And this kind of LEDs are finally exactly the size which is necessary inside a overhead projector to have a perfectly even, smooth and white square when you project. So I advise to use this size of LED, which is very easy to find on internet. I even find some for I don't know, 1 or 2 euros each, so 100 watt LEDs are very cheap today. It's harder to find them more powerful than 100 watts. I was able to find 200 watts and even 300 watts. This one is a 300 watts and I'm still not able to run it without issues. It's making a little bit of smokes, etc. So I'm trying to find how to control it without any issues, because I was still able to do a quick test before it's making too much smoke. And with a quick test, it was sending more than 30,000 lumens. So it's very, very interesting to develop a prototype with this kind of LED. You can see the size of this LED COB is smaller than all the other ones, but it's still working in an overhead projector. Even the point of light very powerful like that will be able to send enough light to power up the Fresnel lens, I mean to light up the Fresnel lens and the optical up there. So this one was still working to have an even square image. And maybe with the other LED I had, I should have put them lower to be able to get the same power. But I think because it's a small point, if I put it lower, I still have all of the projection surface this LED is able to make. So I still have to do experimentation on this one to do not have issues. So if you have any suggestions on how to use that, please help me in the comment below. That would be helpful to then share it with people if they want to make themselves a very, very bright 300 watt LED projector. And the current prototype I'm working on is this LED module, and it's a special LED COB, which is very interesting because it has cool white half part and a warm white half part. So it's interesting because you can mix, I guess, by adding dimmer potentiometer to one side or the other. You can adjust the temperature of your white light you're emitting, and in case of doing video shooting, video editing, or very precise and accurate shot with light you really need to be at a special white and color. I think this kind of LED is interesting, so I'm still doing research on it, but it's very bright. This one is a 200 watts, so it's sending 24,000 lumens, and it's quite powerful, and it's not that expensive. And I need to power up, like all the other one, it's powered by 24 volts and DC to DC booster. By the way you are using DC to DC booster, it's important to take some extra watts in the characteristics of this. For example, this LED is a 200 watt, like this one and this one, I remember. And when you are having a 200 watt LED, it's making more heat, but it's also consuming more electricity. And in my case, I'm using a 300 watt DC to DC booster to power up my 200 watt. So it could seem very extra electricity to save 100 watt of consumption, but I assure you, by using that, this is not heating at all, so that's very interesting. I don't have to put a fan on it. And I prefer to spend €1 more on this part to have 100 watt more to be sure I don't have any issues. And at first in the project I was using 12 volts power supply, and I had a lot of issues because transforming 12 volt to 36 volt, it's 3 times bigger and it's consuming more watts when you do that. By doing this transformation, this was loaded at almost 280 watts, which is very close, too close from the limit of this DC to DC booster. So I advise you to take big ones and power ones, and if you want to decrease the power, make sure to do your calculation very well. This one was dead because it's 200 watts and I use it on a 200 watt LED, but I put a 12 volt power supply, so it was consuming, I think, then 280 watts, so it burns. So be sure you do your calculation of voltage and watts very well to do not have any issue with that. Another module I have to present is this one, which is a 220 volts LED. So that might be very interesting because you don't need a power supply anymore. I don't know how it's made, but it's probably kind of integrated inside of it some transformation current, so it can power up the LED without any power supply, any external power supply. So this LED, you just put your 2 wires of 220 volts inside of it, and the LED is powered up, and it's a 100 watt one, so it's sending 12,000 lumens. So this is a very interesting way of making a LED module. But the problem with that is if you're powering it with 220 volts, it is more dangerous to use. So be careful to do your electric connections very well if you don't want to have any issues and any injuries, because it's more dangerous to work in 200 volts rather than in 24 volts. What I can add with all these LED modules is it's useful to work with recycled parts and components, but when you do that, it could be harder to integrate it inside your overhead projector because you need at least 4 screws under your LED module to be able to fix it to put it inside your existing projector to do the conversion. For example, on Stratus LED, it was very useful because they build it with 4 screws all around of it, so we just had to make 4 holes inside our projector, so it was easy to integrate it inside and set up the correct height and orientation. I speak about that in another tutorial about how to convert your halogen overhead projector to a LED one. And I'm trying in my LED modules to add 4 screws at the bottom of them by using this kind of assembling metal components, which is very cheap and easy to find everywhere, and it's compatible with maximum M5 screws, which is very enough to be strong to connect everything. So you can see this tiny module which looks like some kind of robot or satellite, I don't know, but I really like the aspect of it. And I just have these 4 screws so I can fix it and put it at the bottom of my projector. And because it's very flat, I'm able to gain a lot of space inside my projector to make it smaller. But in this case, I'm sending the wind on this side and I still have to do experimentation to be sure it's okay to do that to cool down the LED, and maybe it would be better to have the fan under, which is cooling down from this way, but if I do that I will lose space. So this is kind of a fight between space and efficiency. I have to make and explore, and all of this is very experimental for me because this is not my job to be a light and electronic engineer, so really feel free to help me by advices and pointing my mistakes with the finger and say to me, no, you can't do that, you have to do it that way. I really want to learn more about how to make these LED modules more efficient and accessible if people want to make them themselves. And I also try to use as much recycled parts that is possible to take, to do not buy anything new and kill the planet with many new components coming from China or everywhere. So I try to make all that stuff resilient, single-handed and recycled. So that is all my researches currently about this LED module and stuff to do conversion of overhead projectors. I'm able now to make 100 watt and 200 watt LED modules without issues. Still working on the 300 watt module to have a very powerful projector, and still trying to small down everything so it doesn't take too much material that is not necessary, so we don't use too much resources. And I'm also still working, I don't have it there, but on a potentiometer to dim and reduce or increase the power of your LED. And it's still in experimental mode because I'm learning it from a few tutorials on internet. So basically it's a potentiometer which is connected to these two wires I added to my DC to DC booster, because on this booster you have a amps limitator with a screwable potentiometer, and on a tutorial from DIY Perks as well I learned how to modify this and put an external potentiometer, but you have to add two other potentiometer on it. So it's a little box that is added to that, but it's very useful to make the brightness very lower if you don't need it to be at maximum, so you save electricity and you also save your eyes, because when you're working on the projector it's better to do not have maximum power of brightness inside your eyes, because it's sometimes too bright. So this is another experimentation I'm working on, and I will continue to share with you the things I'm finding on these LED modules, and feel free to help me by sending question requests or answers or ideas, and you can do that on Visiophare forum we are developing right now, so you can find all the links in the description, and you can also, if you want, buy your own LED module that is already made, or I'm selling the parts, which are a mix between new parts I get from internet and recycling parts. So I can send you a kit if you want to try to build your own or integrate your own inside an overhead projector. And it's still in kind of beta test and experimentation, so I do not guarantee every LED module will be very stable, but I'm here if you want to talk about it and if you want to help improve all that stuff, so we can all have LED projectors, so everything is converted to LED and use less power. So feel free to share everything you find on the forum and to ask any question in the comment below.
Thank you for watching this video. As you've seen, there are many things to improve, create or remix, so please feel free to participate to the community.
You can follow us on Instagram, you can go on our website visiophare.org, where we have a lot of documentation and blueprints we share for free to help you build your own overhead projector or convert your original one with LED. Feel free also to go on the forum of Visiophare to share your builds, ask your questions, share your ideas, and together I'm sure we can improve a lot the possibilities of this fascinating machine. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you.